The female assistant accompanied her boss to a late-night business dinner. After getting drunk, he carried her back to the penthouse suite. Unsurprisingly, the girl was assaulted by her boss. After it happened, she lay dazed in the bathtub, clenching her fists and crying helplessly. Just then, a male colleague from the company sent her a message. Zhao Sun was stunned. How did he know she was with her boss? She stood up and looked out the window. Her male colleague had already dialed the police, but just as the call connected, a row of police cars sirened their way to the scene. The man panicked and quickly hung up. Boss Chen Bin insisted this was a complete and utter false accusation. Yet the arrival of the detectives left Zhao Sun utterly flustered. Fresh out of school, she was terrified. Both were escorted out of the company building. Before heading to the police station, Officer Yanli took Zhao Sun to the hospital for a physical examination. The moment Zhao Sun lay on the cold examination table, painful memories surged back. She wept, her broken state heartbreaking to witness. In the interrogation room, Chen Bin did not deny the romantic relationship with Zhao Sun. Zhao Sun immediately denied being Chen Bin's lover. Their statements during questioning differed significantly. Chen Bin claimed their relationship was consensual, with no coercion or violence involved. Yet, a surprising twist occurred at the end of the interrogation. Zhao Sun suddenly changed her story, stating she hadn't been forced and had voluntarily engaged in a relationship with her boss. Facing police questioning, Zhao Sun's mental state was on the verge of collapse. With the victim making such a statement, Yanli could do little. Just as she prepared to leave, Zhao Sun asked who had reported the incident. Yanli did not tell her. If neither Zhao Sun nor her male colleague had filed the report, who could it have been? Despite the case's numerous inconsistencies, even the victim now flatly denied the allegations and withdrew her accusations. The chief ordered Yanli to release her immediately. Attorney Lin Can, who had waited outside the station all night, entered to collect her. Chen Bin was furious. His status as chairman of a publicly traded company meant his personal reputation was inextricably linked to the company's. If last night's incident leaked to the public, the financial damage to the company would be incalculable. Just as Chen Bin opened his mouth to demand police confidentiality, Lin Can informed him, last night, the video of you leaving the hotel was already leaked online by the media. Now, the police station was surrounded by reporters. Chen Bin believed this was clearly an attempt to frame him. Indeed, after he and Zhao Sun entered the hotel last night, an anonymous individual had alerted both the police and the media for an exclusive scoop. Vice Chairman Li Yi saw the rage in Chen Bin's eyes. Chen Bin felt a twinge of guilt but dismissed it. He then instructed Lin Can to help uncover the identity and motives of the anonymous caller. He demanded to know who the mastermind was, who wanted him dead. Lin Can countered that although Zhao Sun had dropped her accusations, her case remained critical. Only Zhao Sun's testimony could sway the criminal conviction. A case not filed didn't mean it was closed. Chen Bin, however, swore up and down that Zhao Sun wouldn't press charges against him. Just then, his wife called Chen Bin. Chen Bin apologized repeatedly and asked her to help draft a statement about their unbreakable marriage. Love stronger than gold, understanding, and forgiveness. Lin Can, exasperated, went downstairs to check the surveillance footage. After he left, the atmosphere between them shifted. Zhao Sun's parents returned home from grocery shopping to find neighbors pointing fingers at their family. Auntie Lu from the community urged them to watch the news. Though the female lead in the photo was pixelated, the parents recognized their daughter Zhao Sun by her clothes and silhouette. Meanwhile, Yanli escorted Zhao Sun back to the complex. Facing the neighbors' stares, Zhao Sun sprinted home. But upon arrival, her parents confronted her. Is that pixelated girl in the photo you? Without a second thought, her father slapped her hard across the face. Zhao Sun locked herself in her room, too afraid to go out for days. Li Yi told Chen Bin that Zhao Sun wasn't as innocent as he imagined. Perhaps it was Zhao Sun who had called the police. Chen Bin still believed Zhao Sun was too pure to do such a thing. Li Yi was utterly speechless at his attitude. Chen Bin convened an emergency board meeting, vowing to reverse the plummeting stock price. Meanwhile, Lin Can reviewing surveillance footage and the police simultaneously noticed that before Chen Bin brought Zhao Sun back to the penthouse room, Zhao Sun leaned against the wall with both hands. Unable to walk, she said something to Chen Bin, but her voice was muffled and partially obscured by her hair. They couldn't make out the words. Later, Lin Can questioned Chen Bin about what Zhao Sun had said to her. In Chen Bin's recollection, Zhao Sun had said, "Take me home," yet he lied to Lin Can, claiming, "My legs gave out." so I carried her inside. Lin Kan believed Chen Bin was lying but chose not to confront him. She reiterated that she had no obligation to take this case, and hoped Chen Bin would be honest with her. She then proceeded to investigate the building's security cameras and surveillance. Meanwhile, colleague Wu Yu visited Zhao Sun's home. That evening, after delivering documents to the boss, he spotted Zhao Sun passed out drunk on the sofa and followed them. He eventually saw the boss bring Zhao Sun into the bedroom. However, Wu Yu was still confused because he hadn't been the one to call the police. He confronted Zhao Sun, demanding why she wasn't at the police station pressing charges against the boss. Before Zhao Sun could answer, her parents burst through the door. Her father demanded angrily, "Is what Wu Yu said true?" Watching her distraught parents, Zhao Sun finally covered her face and nodded silently. Chen Bin, feeling guilty upon his wife's return, looked like a child who'd done something wrong. Xin Wei gazed at the spacious apartment and told her husband, "This home is just like our marriage, a gorgeous facade." Late that night, Chen Bin tried to persuade his wife to help with a crisis PR campaign for the company, but Xin Wei presented her condition, divorce. She knew clearly that since their third year of marriage, her husband had shown her no care. Their emotional bond had long vanished, leaving only business interests. Chen Bin refused divorce because he feared his wife would claim his shares, thereby stripping him of his dominant voice in the company. Xin Wei immediately exposed all the unscrupulous deeds her husband had committed over the years. Chen Bin broke down. He never imagined his wife would go this far, despite being the one at fault all these years. The next day, when Chen Bin arrived at the company with Lin Kan, they were ambushed and beaten by Zhao Sun's father. What Zhao Sun's father didn't expect was that Chen Bin produced a video. In it, Zhao Sun personally admitted the boss hadn't coerced her. This video utterly humiliated Zhao Sun's father. Chen Bin stated he understood and was willing to offer their family substantial compensation. The next day, Lin Kan visited with a settlement agreement in hand. It included a 700 square meter detached villa in Thailand, complete with a driver and housekeeper. Additionally, they would receive $5,000 monthly for living expenses. Chen Bin also pledged to fully support Zhao Sun's future work and life. Yet, faced with this agreement, Zhao Sun became emotionally distraught and demanded Lin Kan leave. Xin Wei was utterly surprised that Chen Bin agreed to divorce her, but Chen Bin insisted on retaining 4 percentage points more than her share. This would keep him as the group's largest shareholder. Xin Wei understood and accepted this equity distribution. After finalizing the divorce terms, Xin Wei posted their affectionate videos as promised. She continued to publicly portray a loving marriage with Chen Bin. Zhao Sun's forensic report confirmed the bodily fluid residue matched Chen Bin's DNA. Yet without the suspect's confession, the criminal case remained unproven. Later, Yanli identified the anonymous caller's photo through surveillance footage, but the individual possessed exceptional counter-surveillance skills. No camera captured their full face. Considering they might be an acquaintance, perhaps their build could reveal their identity. So Yanli slipped into Zhao Sun's residence. Yet after viewing the photo, Zhao Sun claimed never to have seen this person. As Yanli left, she encountered Lin Kan downstairs. Both harbored similar suspicions about the case. Back at the company, Chen Bin was surprised to learn Zhao Sun hadn't signed the contract. He assumed she was dissatisfied with his proposed settlement terms. Chen Bin instructed Lin Kan to meet with Zhao Sun again to clarify her true intentions if she or her parents proposed new demands. Chen Bin now only wanted to send Zhao Sun abroad as quickly as possible. His immediate priority was to uncover who had made the anonymous police report. Thus, Lin Kan and his assistant set out to investigate the anonymous tipster. However, Chen Bin ignored Li Yi and dismissed him. After Li Yi left, Chen Bin gazed meaningfully at a family photo of himself and his wife. Late that night, Lin Kan and his assistant scouted the public phone booth used by the tipster. They successfully obtained a clear photo of the tipster's face from surveillance outside a coffee shop. After enlarging the image, Lin Kan felt the person looked familiar. Chen Bin showed no surprise upon seeing the photo on the tablet. Lin Kan suspected the tipster was the bodyguard who had just resigned from Chen Bin's service on the day of the incident. Lin Kan thought the resemblance was strong, but Chen Bin insisted the person in the footage was not his bodyguard. Lin Kan believed the bodyguard was both the one who called the police and the whistleblower. Chen Bin explained it was all just a coincidence. Lin Kan sensed Chen Bin was deliberately hiding something. Chen Bin declared he would investigate all the bodyguards and drivers around him. Chen Bin watched the video on the tablet, feeling a chill of dread, because the bodyguard In Bo was the one who had driven Zhao Sun and himself back to the company that night. Lin Kan left Chin Bin's office precisely at 10:30 p.m. Zhao Sun saw Wu Yu waiting downstairs and invited him to walk by the river together. Wu Yu confronted her, asking if she intended to avoid clarifying the truth with the police. Zhao Sun's solution was to pretend nothing had ever happened. Faced with an unexpected slap, Wu Yu offered two possible explanations. The first was that his earlier words had insulted Zhao Sun. The second was that he had hit the nail on the head, causing the other party to fly into a rage. After Wu Yu left, Zhao Sun sat alone by the riverbank, sobbing uncontrollably. Meanwhile, Chen Bin was happily dancing around in his office. Divorcing his wife and the company's stock rebounding, each of these events was a reason for him to dance with joy here. Li Yi couldn't believe Chen Bin remained so cheerful despite his wife taking such a large share of the company. Chen Bin assured her that Xin Wei had no ambition to seize control of the company. Otherwise, she wouldn't have returned home 7 years ago to raise their child. To celebrate Chen Bin's newfound single status, the two danced on the company rooftop. After further investigation, Lin Kan gradually grew suspicious of her boss, Chen Bin. She sought out Manager Su, who had the closest relationship with In Bo within the company. Manager Su's reaction confirmed Lin Kan's suspicion that he was deliberately hiding something. Manager Su urged Lin Kan to stop making things difficult for him. The boss had specifically called last night to remind him. Just then, Manager Su received a call reporting that Wu Yu from operations had gotten into a fight with a colleague. Not long ago, the women in the office had been gossiping about how Zhao Sun had skyrocketed to success within just 3 months of joining the company. Colleagues were badmouthing Zhao Sun behind his back, which infuriated Wu Yu. Wu Yu was extremely agitated. Seeing this, a colleague hurriedly called Zhao Sun. The security guard took advantage of the moment when Wu Yu answered the phone to knock him unconscious. Worried about Wu Yu, Zhao Sun rushed to the company regardless. Upon reaching the floor, she witnessed Wu Yu being led away by Cheong Feng. Li Yi confronted Lin Kan at the office and berated him harshly. His piercing gaze made Zhao Sun lower her head. With Lin Kan's assistance, Zhao Sun arrived at the police station, where she unexpectedly encountered Yan Li. Yan Li informed Zhao Sun that Wu Yu had been detained for 5 days and fined 500 yuan. Li Yi recounted the earlier incident to Chen Bin. Chen Bin immediately questioned whether Wu Yu and Zhao Sun were dating. Seeing this, Li Yi deliberately provoked, "Are you jealous?" to demonstrate his strength to the audience. 53-year-old Chen Bin promptly performed several pull-ups. Later, outside the police station, he launched into a PUA session with Zhao Sun in the car. His barrage of sweet talk shattered Zhao Sun's defenses. During their conversation, Chen Bin began touching Zhao Sun inappropriately, even pulling her into his embrace. Zhao Sun tacitly accepted all of Chen Bin's advances. This left Lin Kan, sitting in the passenger seat, utterly stunned. After dropping Zhao Sun off at home, Lin Kan continued searching for In Bo. Lin Kan discovered In Bo had vanished after 10:30 p.m. the previous night. She confronted Chen Bin, informing him that illegally restricting someone's freedom was a crime. Preventing someone from testifying or coercing false testimony was also criminal. Chen Bin swore to Lin Kan he hadn't done anything illegal and that In Bo's disappearance had nothing to do with him. The next day, a group of men in black followed Lin Kan. Under the gossiping stares of neighbors, they arrived at Zhao Sun's residence. They loaded her and her belongings into large and small boxes, hauling them onto a bus bound for the airport. Yet just as they neared the airport, Zhao Sun suddenly recalled the man who had always defended her at all costs. This made her even more determined not to abandon her own defense. Witnessing this scene, Lin Kan seemed to grasp Chen Bin's true intentions. As both sides reached an impasse, Lin Kan, seated nearby, intervened. He ordered the driver to turn back immediately and warned the bodyguards they were now suspected of kidnapping. Zhao Sun never expected the one helping her at this moment to be the opposing lawyer. Chen Bin called Zhao Sun, asking what she wanted. A higher position? More money? Anything was possible. But Zhao Sun said she wanted nothing. Chen Bin shamelessly retorted, "You wouldn't want me to divorce my wife and marry you, would you?" Zhao Sun told Chen Bin never to call her again and hung up. Chen Bin was utterly humiliated, but more than that, he was furious, because Zhao Sun had slipped completely out of his grasp. He had no idea what Zhao Sun would do next, but he had a bad feeling about it. He sought Lin Kan's advice. Li Yi, who was nearby, also thought it was impossible to call the police and demand compensation. Any smart person would know which choice to make. Among the three, Only Lin Kan could still gain Zhao Sun's trust. Chen Bin instructed her to keep a close watch on Zhao Sun and report any suspicious activity immediately. Lin Kan arrived at Zhao Sun's home late at night only to find her absent. The elderly parents were also frantically searching for their daughter. Lin Kan eventually located Zhao Sun by the riverbank. Due to the events earlier that day, Zhao Sun had no guard against Lin Kan. They shared many heartfelt conversations, acting like an older sister. Lin Kan, speaking from experience, gave Zhao Sun the courage she needed to avoid future regrets. Zhao Sun decided to go to the police station to file a report. Surprisingly, Lin Kan, as the opposing defense attorney, even drove her there. "You're his lawyer, yet I feel safe with you. You're defending him, yet you're protecting me." Lin Kan smiled faintly and said, "Starting tomorrow, I'll be the person you hate the most." The sight of the victim stepping out of the defendant's lawyer's car stunned Yanli, who was waiting outside the police station. Later, Lin Kan rushed back to the company and informed both Li Yi and Zhao Sun of the situation. Upon learning that Lin Kan had driven Zhao Sun to the police station, Li Yi, as the employer's representative, immediately flew into a rage. She believed Lin Kan should have done everything possible to stop Zhao Sun. Lin Kan countered that a lawyer's duty is to maximize the client's interests within legal boundaries. Resorting to any means would severely violate her professional ethics and discipline. "If you're dissatisfied with my work, you can dismiss me." Lin Kan turned to leave but was intercepted by Chen Bin. After calming down and discussing further, Chen Bin learned Lin Kan had already organized his materials. Lin Kan's professionalism was undeniably rock solid. Li Yi also apologized for her earlier impulsiveness. Based on the evidence they held, Chen Bin could be released within 7 days at most, unless a major twist emerged sudden. Game-changing accusatory evidence. Lin Kan urged Chen Bin to speak truthfully and stop withholding information. Seeing this, Chen Bin confessed to Lin Kan that Yin Bo was the one who alerted the police. The so-called mastermind behind the scenes wasn't his business rival at all, but his personal bodyguard, Yin Bo. Chen Bin explained Yin Bo had reported him because he had long harbored a secret crush on Zhao Sun. Upset by this, Chen Bin had fired Yin Bo. Li Yi also vouched for Chen Bin's truthfulness, since Chen Bin would be unable to sign contracts after his incarceration. Lin Kan had him sign the share transfer agreement with his ex-wife Xin Wei on the spot. Chen Bin swore to his ex-wife that he had absolutely not coerced Zhao Sun. Early the next morning, Xin Wei received the share transfer agreement delivered by Lin Kan. At that very moment, Xin Wei ceased to be anyone's wife and became the company's chairwoman. Xin Wei ordered her male secretary to immediately convene a board meeting. All 5 directors plus herself, not one could be missing. Even Lin Kan was startled by Xin Wei's sudden shift in demeanor. 7 years had passed since she returned to family life, yet her ex-husband had never valued her. Surveying the familiar office space, Xin Wei felt a flood of emotions. Hours earlier, Chen Bin knew the police would come for him first thing. He showered, styled his hair, applied skincare, and donned a tailored suit. After making one final call to his son, he, having not slept all night, joined Lin Kan and Li Yi for breakfast. Both women had no appetite, yet he ate heartily. At the police station, Yan Li obtained the detention warrant issued by the precinct and immediately led her team to Chen Bin's company. However, Chen Bin had already made thorough preparations. The moment he was led out of the company, I couldn't even tell if he was the suspect or the task force leader. His aura made it feel like the plainclothes officers behind him were all his personal entourage. When brought to the detention center and told to undress there, Chen Bin's eyes betrayed unmistakable panic and unease. It felt like undressing in full view of everyone, like being humiliated. After changing, Chen Bin was taken to the interrogation room and began recounting every detail of that night. Throughout his description, Chen Bin repeatedly emphasized that Zhao Sun had been fully conscious at the time. Both parties had engaged in the act willingly, without coercion. Yet Zhao Sun's statement from the previous night contradicted this entirely. In Zhao Sun's account, she had no coherent memory of that night. She only knew that when she fully regained consciousness, Chen Bin was already on top of her. Afterward, Yan Li questioned Wu Yu, who had been waiting downstairs the entire night. However, after Yan Li finished questioning everyone, another twist emerged. She believed Zhao Sun was mocking the public security authorities and disrupting the litigation process. Zhao Sun nervously drummed her fingers, neither defending nor denying the accusation. She tacitly admitted it. It turned out that among the 2 pieces of evidence Lin Kan had provided earlier that day, the first was testimony from a company security guard. He had personally heard that Zhao Sun was not drunk. However, The second piece of evidence was the most direct. Another security guard claimed Zhao Sun had called him to deliver red wine to the room. Next came the phone audio recording provided by Lin Kan. This recording occurred precisely before Chen Bin assaulted Zhao Sun. This evidence conclusively proved Zhao Sun's testimony about being unconscious until the end was a lie. But how did Lin Kan foresee that Zhao Sun would give the police testimony about being unconscious? All officers in the task force fell deep in thought. Yan Li was furious with Zhao Sun, demanding if she had anything else to say. Zhao Sun just sat there silently crying, saying nothing. Meanwhile, Lin Kan sat in his office staring at Zhao Sun's selfies, seemingly wrestling with intense internal conflict. After leaving the police station, Zhao Sun went to the seaside and screamed loudly. That day, Lin Kan returned to his old university and recalled that disgusting past incident. Professor Wu was her graduate advisor and also a university classmate of her parents. Lin Kan expressed gratitude for the opportunity to study under him. He then offered to show her around the new city. These words, exceeding their professional relationship, left the young, naive Lin Kan somewhat bewildered. Yet, out of admiration and trust for the professor, she followed him. Professor Wu brought her to his residence. The dazzling array of law books quickly put her at ease. Since his wife and child were abroad, the professor had Lin Kan stay in his daughter's room. To Lin Kan, it was simply her parents' arrangement and a convenient place for academic guidance. But to others, it became a man and a woman alone together in one room. The professor would have her deliberately fetch books from the top shelves. He would clasp her small hand tightly, reluctant to let go. From then on, he grew increasingly brazen. Professor Wu led Lin Kan to his daughter's room, urging her to rest soundly there. If you feel uneasy, lock the door from the inside, he said. Yet moments later, Professor Wu entered the room, declaring Lin Kan's paper ready for publication. Lin Kan was thrilled and thanked him profusely, but her attitude had shifted. Lin Kan, he said, from the moment I first met you, I knew you were extraordinary. Professor Wu held Lin Kan tightly in his embrace. The increasingly bold physical contact filled Lin Kan with dread. Terrified, she fled and reported the incident to other faculty members at the university. Faced with the professor's various questions, Lin Kan seemed unable to find a reasonable explanation. But what the professor said next plunged her into deeper despair. I can't yet define the nature of this incident as campus sexual assault. After all, you didn't refuse him when he made further advances. You didn't refuse to go to his home. Nor did you refuse to rest in his daughter's room. The young Lin Kan was utterly devastated. She didn't know how to handle this situation. Now, after submitting defense evidence for Chen Bin, her senior classmate suddenly showed up to tell her Professor Wu was dying. When he regained consciousness, he confessed in front of his wife. Because of this, the next day, his wife stormed into the law firm. The professor's wife stood up and berated Lin Kan harshly. In her eyes, Lin Kan was a despicable woman who exploited her husband's feelings to achieve her own ends. Faced with the professor's wife's vicious words, Lin Kan endured the humiliation, unable to say a word. That day, Lin Kan came to the prison to process Chen Bin's bail application. However, Yan Li refused her request, citing unclear case details. She asked Lin Kan how she knew Zhao Sun would lie. Certain events from that night were too painful for her to face or explain. Lin Kan's own experiences in college made her empathize deeply with Zhao Sun's state of mind. Meanwhile, inside the detention center, Chen Bin was receiving special attention from the prison bully. A cellmate remarked that Chen Bin was likely framed. The bully retorted, "Don't judge a book by its cover. He may look handsome, but who knows what kind of monster lurks inside." Unwilling to accept the injustice, Chen Bin clashed with the bully. Later, when Lin Kan visited him, Chen Bin, worried about the group's operations, asked Lin Kan to tell Xin Wei to use his personal account to cover the margin call from the stock market. Employees' interests mustn't suffer, it was all his fault. Lin Kan informed him Xin Wei had already done so. Chen Bin was deeply relieved, recognizing Xin Wei as a genuine, employee-focused leader. Ultimately, Lin Kan couldn't bring himself to tell Chen Bin about the group's change in ownership. Late that night, Yan Li left the police station only to encounter Zhao Sun arriving to turn himself in. Zhao Sun confessed to Yan Li that her trip to the restroom was an escape attempt. Ordering wine had served the same purpose, but Chen Bin had remained outside the restroom door, making escape impossible. The case took a decisive turn with new developments. Yan Li escorted Zhao Sun home, urging her to rest well. Tomorrow, she would recount every truthful detail. That night, Chen Bin sat in the detention center, tears welling in his eyes. his heart a tangled mess of emotions. The next day, Zhao Sun admitted she hadn't dared refuse Chen Bin directly, but she had made 3 attempts to escape. The first time, she was still groggy and not fully awake, yet she recognized the corridor leading to the chairman's room. She told Chen Bin she felt dizzy and asked him to take her home, but when she came to again, she found herself in Chen Bin's bed. The scene before her left her utterly stunned. She instinctively blurted out she'd gone to shower. "Officer Yan, if you were a man, how would you interpret this? A woman lying in a man's bed, inviting him to take a shower." Chen Bin saw this as Zhao Sun's subtle hint. Zhao Sun planned to slip away while Chen Bin showered, but Chen Bin claimed he'd already bathed. Her second escape attempt failed. Panicked, she dashed into the bathroom, searching for another way out, but each time she quietly opened the door, she found Chen Bin guarding it. No escape route. Her third attempt was to call security for delivery. The moment Chen Bin opened the door, she slipped out without a word, but this attempt also failed. She knew she'd evaded capture for 3 months, but this time, she couldn't escape. Yanli asked why she stopped trying to flee afterward. For the next half hour, she gave up struggling. She just wanted this nightmare to end quickly. Yanli couldn't understand why Zhao Sun hadn't shown any resistance or refusal during that half hour. Zhao Sun said that making things worse was far worse than the physical violation. The male officer believed Zhao Sun could rationalize her actions, and Chen Bin's testimony was also accurate. The distinction in this case lay in the gender-based differences in understanding. Yet Yanli insisted the relationship between the two was unequal. Our laws must protect not only those women who fight to the death, refusing to yield, but also the timid and meek who endure humiliation. Yanli maintained that Chen Bin was guilty of rape, and many agreed she had a point. Girls must truly stand up bravely, face their courage, and become people who dare to speak for themselves. Today marked the second day Chen Bin was detained in the detention center. Lin Kan anticipated Yanli would seek to extend the detention period, so he legally submitted a second batch of evidence and pressured the police to avoid, or even prevent, the abuse of judicial power to prolong the custody. Sparks flew as their eyes locked in confrontation. This evidence was precisely the video recorded the day after the incident, where Chen Bin took Zhao Sun alone to the art gallery. After watching the video, the male officer felt Zhao Sun either had questionable character or suffered from schizophrenia. He could no longer sympathize with Zhao Sun and insisted the investigation be terminated immediately to release Chen Bin. It turned out that the previous evening, before returning home, Zhao Sun had confessed the truth to Yanli. The reason she denied the assault in the video was because, on the night of the incident, Zhao Sun had no idea who had called the police or the purpose behind the mysterious caller's report. A full day and night of media exposure made her feel like a criminal. The next day, Chen Bin abruptly sent someone to pick her up, taking her to a secluded spot just for the two of them. At the time, she believed Chen Bin was acting solely in her best interest. She couldn't explain why she had behaved that way. She was just so weak. It took her 5 days to realize what she didn't want. Without Lin Kan, she would likely be abroad by now. After the recollection, the male officer reminded Yanli not to let gender dictate her stance. During that day's lunch break, Chen Bin lay awake, tense, his eyes fixed on the waiting news. Finally, the guard arrived to inform him his detention period had been extended by 4 days. Returning, Chen Bin collapsed into sleep, relieved. 7 days it was. At this point, Chen Bin was utterly in awe of Lin Kan. Lin Kan surmised that the evidence he had submitted had undermined the solidity of the Public Security Bureau's existing case. Thus, Yanli intended to use these 4 days to broaden the investigation and locate the anonymous tipster holding crucial information. Chen Bin grew increasingly confident, convinced the police would find no further compelling evidence directly implicating him. Later, he inquired about Lin Kan's company operations. Learning Xian Wei had managed the business successfully, Chen Bin felt relieved. But upon seeing the notification letter appointing his ex-wife as the new chairman in his place, he was utterly stunned. Chen Bin wept. He begged Lin Kan to help him escape immediately. He needed to reclaim his position. On the way back, his rage and despair only intensified. He charged madly at the iron gate, pounding against it with all his might. The next day, Chen Bin feigned illness in his hospital room, hoping the guard would arrange medical parole. When the guard ignored him, Chen Bin reluctantly got up and ate with one hand. Upon learning this, Xian Wei sighed before Lin Kan. They'd been together for over a decade. No matter what setbacks they faced, Chen Bin never lost his composure. But this time, it truly broke him. Li Yi handed the police a dossier, clearly documenting that within the 3 months Zhao Sun was promoted to president's assistant. Chen Bin had spent over 800,000 yuan on her, from management trainee to senior assistant to the president in 3 months. No one in the group believed Zhao Sun was innocent. Employee testimonies within the company grew increasingly damning against Zhao Sun. Wu Yu, who had previously advocated for Zhao Sun's release, was freed. Surprisingly, it wasn't his parents who came to pick him up, but Zhao Sun, the very person he admired. They went to the seaside. Zhao Sun felt deeply guilty that he had lost his job because of her. Wu Yu's parents were super extreme honor obsessed. Learning Wu Yu is shunned by his parents due to a fight instigated by Zhao Sun, Zhao Sun decided to personally explain the situation to Wu Yu's uncle and aunt. After understanding the truth, Wu Yu's parents forgave their son and invited Zhao Sun to stay for dinner. The elderly couple deeply admired and supported Zhao Sun. For a young woman to bravely speak out against physical and emotional harm is truly remarkable. No matter how stormy life gets, Auntie told her, "You can always come here. This door will always be open for you." After dinner, Wu Yu drove Zhao Sun home. Yet upon returning, his parents' attitude had drastically shifted. They pressed him about his relationship with Zhao Sun. Learning he was the only one harboring feelings for her, they surprisingly relaxed. Lin Kan continued investigating Yin Bo's whereabouts. She learned from others that Yin Bo transferred half his monthly salary to his ex-girlfriend's account. Lin Kan's assistant discovered Yin Bo had served in the military 2 years prior. After learning his girlfriend Mi Fei had been raped by contractor Bao Li, he took leave from the military to confront him at the construction site. He beat Bao Li severely to avenge his girlfriend. Surprisingly, Yin Bo's actions constituted intentional assault, a criminal offense. Yet after just 2 days in local custody, he was released. To uncover the reason, the two drove to the neighboring county. While dining, Lin Kan caught a glimpse of Yin Bo missing for days out of the corner of her eye. Spotting Lin Kan, Yin Bo turned and fled. Later, they found a hotel near where Yin Bo had been spotted. Through inquiries, they discovered Yin Bo had arrived here the very night after reporting the incident. To evade police detection, he checked in using a fake ID. Both knew Yin Bo must have come here seeking Mi Fei. After his whereabouts were uncovered, Yin Bo flagged down a passing car that night. Meanwhile, Lin Kan drove alone to the guesthouse Mi Fei ran with her current husband. The place was fortress-like in design, with hidden surveillance cameras everywhere. Lin Kan confronted Mi Fei, demanding why she hadn't pressed charges against Bao Li for rape. That way, Yin Bo would also be prosecuted for intentional assault, sentenced, and expelled from the military. Lin Kan told her it wasn't like that. If she had chosen to report it to the police immediately back then, Yin Bo wouldn't have beaten Bao Li, and he wouldn't have faced criminal charges. You wouldn't have had to sacrifice yourself to protect Yin Bo's safety. It turned out Mi Fei had initially feared she wouldn't win the case, regardless of the outcome. Once the news spread, she'd be branded as someone who'd been violated. Since marrying Bao Li, she'd convinced herself at least she wouldn't worry about money. Compared to her days working for others, Bao Li could at least provide her with food and clothing without worry. She was already pregnant during the pre-marriage checkup and gave birth to their first daughter. Yet as soon as her postpartum confinement ended, Bao Li pressured her to have a second child. When she became pregnant again, it was another girl. From that moment, Bao Li began beating her. She gave birth to the second child in terror, contemplating suicide. But seeing those two adorable children made her abandon that thought. She could lose her own life, but the children were innocent. Now, the only way to correct this wrong was divorce. All these years apart, Mi Fei's heart had always belonged to Yin Bo, until 5 days ago, when she unexpectedly spotted Yin Bo while grocery shopping. She told him she wanted a divorce, but the moment they met, they were caught by the evil mother-in-law. She wasn't sure if the mother-in-law had seen Yin Bo. Yet that very afternoon, Bao Li rushed home from the construction site. The moment he arrived, he brutally beat Mi Fei again. 4 days, he had been watching the construction site from home, keeping Mi Fei confined and preventing her from contacting Yin Bo. Until that evening, when Lin Kan came to her house looking for her. Bao Li saw Lin Kan through the surveillance and lied that Mi Fei wasn't home. But Lin Kan, sensing something was off with a woman's intuition, didn't leave. Finally, Mi Fei took advantage of Bao Li passing out drunk and rushed out, seeing Mi Fei covered in bruises, not even having time to put on slippers, just a single pair of shoes. Lin Kan brought her back to her own place. In the room, she learned everything about Mi Fei's situation with Yin Bo and Bao Li. Mi Fei asked Lin Kan if she could win a divorce lawsuit. She said she could give up everything, just wanting custody of their 2 daughters. However, Mi Fei currently had no job and no income to fight for child custody. she would definitely be at an economic disadvantage. Lin can explain that in similar court cases, children under 2 years old are typically awarded to the mother. Since the eldest daughter was already 1.5, she must finalize the divorce before the child turned 2. Lin can instructed her to remember 3 crucial points. First, gather evidence by any means necessary. Second, report it to the police. If the authorities verified the domestic violence, Baoli would face administrative penalties at minimum. Lin can affirmed her reasoning. Taking In Bo's money would inevitably give Baoli leverage. She then personally provided Mi-Fei with living expenses. In that moment, Lin can shone like a beacon, illuminating Mi-Fei's darkened life. She advised Mi-Fei to rest early, promising to accompany her to the police station the next morning. Yet when Lin Can and her assistant returned after breakfast the next morning, bringing Mi-Fei her meal, they discovered Mi-Fei was gone from the room. The luggage and belongings inside showed signs of being rummaged through. The two rushed to the front desk to request hotel surveillance footage, only to be evasively refused by the manager. Lin Can suspected Baoli must have taken Mi-Fei. Her assistant urged her not to meddle in others' affairs, especially since family matters are hard to judge fairly, but Lin Can stubbornly insisted on going to Baoli's home alone. Baoli refused to open the door, lying that his wife wasn't there. Lin Can warned Baoli that she had evidence of Mi-Fei being abused. Baoli showed no fear at her threat, flinging the door open and telling Lin Can to look for herself. Unafraid of danger, Lin Can rushed inside alone. She searched the entire house and finally found Mi-Fei in the kitchen. Seeing Mi-Fei's old wounds still unhealed and new injuries added, Lin Can immediately called the police to collect evidence. Yet under Baoli's threats and bribes, Mi-Fei never found the courage to step outside that door. Lin Can ultimately left in frustration, but on the only road out of the village, her path was blocked by a pile of broken stones. She stopped to clear them, only to be knocked unconscious. A mysterious figure unlocked Lin Can's phone with a fingerprint, deleting all incriminating evidence. They also removed the memory card from the dashcam. When she regained consciousness, Lin Can sent her location to her assistant. The two later reported the incident to the local police station. However, the officers made excuses and refused to accept the case. Just then, the assistant's university friend arrived. A police bureau director. Director Gu Lin instructed the local police to investigate immediately. Shortly after, the officers returned, stating Baoli had a solid alibi. The trio then departed the area. Later, the friend received a call revealing the officer who handled their case was Baoli's close associate. He was also the one who detained In Bo years ago only to drop the charges. By this point, the pattern became clear. Baoli and Mi-Fei, Chen Bin and Zhao Sun all were cases of those in positions of power exerting psychological control and physical harm over those below them. Lin Can speculated In Bo had essentially brought Mi-Fei into Zhao Sun's orbit, projecting his own emotional trauma onto their relationship. He sensed Zhao Sun was a victim just like Mi-Fei, and had called the police that night to intervene and protect her. Yan Li conducted a routine interrogation of Wu Yu. Wu Yu had once asked Zhao Sun why she didn't quit her job. Zhao Sun explained it was to repay her parents. She had calculated that raising her from childhood had cost her parents over 2 million yuan at her management trainee's salary. It would take her 17 years to repay that debt. If she advanced smoothly, the time could be halved. But now, as a senior assistant, she could earn 2 million yuan in just 5 years. For Zhao Sun's safety, the two had an unspoken agreement. Wu Yu waited downstairs every night for Zhao Sun to finish work. 3 nights before the incident, he waited past midnight without seeing Zhao Sun come down. She finally descended around 1 a.m. He asked what had happened. Zhao Sun wouldn't elaborate, only saying that Chen Bin's bodyguard had been there. Otherwise Chen Bin would likely have succeeded that night. Later, Zhao Sun recounted the incident to Yan Li. It turned out that over the past 3 months, In Bo had consistently appeared to interrupt Chen Bin whenever he made suggestive advances toward Zhao Sun. Yan Li informed Zhao Sun that it was In Bo who had called the police on the night of the incident. Just as Zhao Sun arrived in surprise, Yan Li received In Bo's location. They immediately set up surveillance at In Bo's apartment. After 6 days in criminal detention, Chen Bin finally awaited his release on bail. The day came so suddenly that even Lin Can felt a hint of surprise. Chen Bin had planned a grand return to impress his ex-wife, but right at his doorstep, Xian Wei gave him a taste of his own medicine. Take off your clothes outside. Pants too. Chen Bin's face darkened, his heart sinking. Zhao Sun also saw the news about Chen Bin's bail release. This meant the current evidence was insufficient. Chen Bin's crime wasn't severe enough for detention, even if prosecuted and convicted later. It would be a minor offense, probably just probation. Anger and helplessness washed over her. That evening, Yan Li met with her. Both were in low spirits. Zhao Sun couldn't understand why Yin Bo had called the police back then. Was it just to deliberately seek revenge against Chen Bin? Zhao Sun now realized her chances of success were extremely slim, but she had spoken up for herself and fought back. There was nothing left to regret. Earlier, Yan Li had taken Yin Bo away for questioning, yet Yin Bo seemed fully prepared. He answered Yan Li's numerous questions fluently, displaying an arrogant demeanor. He claimed he had called the police that night for revenge, because Chen Bin had fired him without cause. He denied having secretly helped Zhao Sun. As the final key witness in the case, Yin Bo failed to provide compelling evidence. Therefore, Xingfang had no choice but to drop the charges and release Chen Bin. There was no justification to keep him detained. Lin Ken was equally perplexed. Why did Yin Bo secretly protect Zhao Sun yet refuse to testify on her behalf? As the initial caller, any corroborating evidence he provided could have prevented Chen Bin's bail. Lin Ken instructed his assistant to continue investigating Yin Bo. Late at night, while Xin Wei was working, Chen Bin approached her. He then played the emotional card, claiming his 6 days in custody had profoundly altered his physical and mental state. I've reformed. I'm not the same person anymore. Seeing Xin Wei's disinterest, he resorted to persistent, clingy tactics. If you insist on divorce, I'll have my lawyers use the difficulty of divorce proceedings to drag this out for a year, maybe even 2. Xin Wei was too busy at work to waste time and energy on Chen Bin's nonsense. Seeing his plan work, Chen Bin immediately beamed, sitting behind his wife and pestered her relentlessly. Xin Wei stated, even though you're back, your criminal suspicion hasn't been lifted. Even if it were lifted, the negative impact you've caused the group won't just disappear. Finally, Chen Bin paced back and forth in frustration, still unable to get through to Xin Wei. In a fit of anger, Chen Bin stormed out of the house and collapsed on Li Yi's couch. He informed Li Yi he planned to convene a board meeting the next day to reclaim his authority, but Li Yi felt the timing was ill-advised, insisting they wait until the police concluded their investigation to repay Lin Can for protecting his reputation. Chen Bin paid Lin Can a staggering 5 million yuan in legal fees. This sum was astronomical by national standards. Immediately after, Chen Bin presented his case dismissal order and release notice before the group's senior executives, formally announcing his return. Xin Wei knew Chen Bin's words were meant for her ears only, yet she couldn't care less about him. Let him make a fool of himself. Later, Lin Can privately informed Chen Bin that this matter wasn't completely over. He still needed to draft a gag order with Zhao Sun. Both parties were forbidden from disclosing the incident's details or criminal investigation specifics. They were also prohibited from discussing or mentioning this matter to anyone. The agreement was permanent. Chen Bin believed Lin Can was doing this to protect Zhao Sun. Lin Can countered that it was also to protect him. This very morning, due to Yan Li's particular stubbornness regarding the case, the leadership of the Criminal Investigation Brigade decided to personally investigate it. However, in the brigade chief's view, Yan Li was completely controlled by feminine sentimentality and lacked any objective judgment on the case. The brigade chief angrily ordered Yan Li to immediately terminate the investigation. Just moments ago in the interrogation room, the deputy chief questioned Zhao Sun about why he accepted luxury gifts worth 880,000 yuan from the group within 3 months. Zhao Sun claimed he didn't know how to refuse. The deputy chief then produced the overseas study agreement signed by Zhao Sun's parents and video evidence of Zhao Sun personally denying the assault the day after the incident. This barrage of sharp questioning pushed Zhao Sun to the brink of collapse. Yan Li, who soon learned of the situation, rushed to the interrogation room. Zhao Sun tearfully declared she no longer wished to press charges. Yan Li confronted the squad leader, leading to the earlier incident. Filled with both rage and helplessness, Yan Li vented his frustration at the gym. Later, in the locker room, he unexpectedly encountered Lin Can. When her senior colleague greeted her, Yan Li responded with a sarcastic tone and even launched personal attacks against Lin Can. She believed Lin Can always employed underhanded tactics. Back at Winley Law Firm, she had skyrocketed to success by leaning on powerful connections and enjoying their resources. Now, she used these legal skills to serve those same powerful interests. Yan Li saw Lin Can as a beneficiary of the unspoken rules herself. That's why she had grown accustomed to the mutual benefits of aligning with power. Yan Li claimed all her efforts were to protect Zhao Sun, to help her advance further, to shield her as she moved from the police bureau to the procuratorate. and finally to the courtroom, to face more people and voice her innermost feelings, even if she ultimately didn't get the verdict she desired. Truthfully, all these years, she couldn't understand, why would Lincoln, this seemingly invincible senior in the eyes of law school juniors, this superhuman who'd breezed through every hurdle? She began questioning herself. Had this decade truly been built on her own efforts, or had she, as others claimed, used the backdoor of Professor Wu, the man who once harassed her? Just as she was breaking down, her law firm colleagues gathered to celebrate her. Under Lin Can's leadership, Wenli Law Firm had become the top revenue earner of the year. Simultaneously, she was honored as one of the top 10 outstanding lawyers. Zhao Sun confronted Lin Can. Is Chen Bin a rapist? Lin Can replied, in the eyes of legal professionals, only legal facts matter. Zhao Sun believed she never made it to court because Lin Can had set traps behind the scenes. Even her mother, a fellow legal practitioner, couldn't help but ask if her daughter was helping the wealthy whitewash their crimes. Faced with them, Lin Can found no words to defend herself. Just as, all these years, no matter how hard she worked, she seemed unable to escape the shadow of that past incident, when she was harassed by Professor Wu during university. To evade him, Lin Can refused the doctoral qualification he offered her. Her parents questioned her in bewilderment. They had your application materials all prepared and submitted. It was just a formality for you to go through. You were supposed to take a written exam and interview, yet you hid away and refused to show up no matter what. In desperation, Lin Can confessed to her parents about Professor Wu's harassment throughout her 3 years of graduate study. Her father, feeling guilty, bought a ticket to confront an old classmate for answers, only to be stopped by his daughter en route. Seeing her parents' grief and self-blame, Lin Can comforted them, insisting she could manage perfectly well on her own. Yet no matter how hard she worked over the years, to outsiders, she remained the woman who climbed the ladder by leaning on Professor Wu. The next day, Lin Can met with Chen Bin and asked him to arrange a meeting with Zhao Sun. He admired Lin Can immensely as his lawyer. She had earned such profound trust from the other party. Chen Bin believed Lin Can's approach would better protect his interests. The two finally met again. Because of Zhao Sun, he had lost 6 days of personal freedom. Those 6 days felt like an eternity. He wanted only one answer. From the moment I transferred you to work under me, I began pursuing you. Facing Chen Bin's relentless pressure, Zhao Sun silently wept. Unable to speak, Chen Bin now believed Zhao Sun wasn't after money or fame. Someone must be manipulating him behind the scenes. Or perhaps Zhao Sun was gaining more benefits elsewhere than he ever could with Chen Bin. Chen Bin told Zhao Sun that if this were the truth, he would drop the matter. Zhao Sun declared firmly that no conspiracy lay behind this. Upon hearing he was being asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement, Zhao Sun added, "You hurt me, violated my will, and violated my body. Everything you did to me, all the benefits you thought you gave me, I refuse to accept any of it." Chen Bin was speechless. "If you didn't want this, you should have said so," he said. "Back then, even if you'd uttered half a word of refusal, I wouldn't have forced you." Why hadn't he heard a single no in 3 months? Zhao Sun was too weak. For 3 whole months, she'd only evaded and fled. Faced with the superior's pressure, she dared not utter a single no to Chen Bin. Too afraid to refuse, Chen Bin protested vehemently. "What are you afraid of? Have I ever spoken harshly to you in 3 months?" She'd always believed she had ulterior motives, even feeling ashamed about it. She felt ashamed. It took her so long to realize what she truly wanted. The truth now lay within Zhao Sun's heart. Whether others believed it no longer mattered. What mattered was that today, before Chen Bin, she bravely uttered the word no. Lin Can, who had listened silently throughout, remained speechless, yet her expression clearly showed approval of Zhao Sun's actions. However, this agreement only deepened Zhao Sun's prejudice against Lin Can. Though Chen Bin hadn't yet secured Zhao Sun's statement, he was already impatient to reclaim everything that belonged to him. That evening, he and Li Yi met with Boss Luan, one of the company's 7 major directors, demanding he declare his allegiance for tomorrow's board meeting. Boss Luan patted his chest and promised both men his support. Just as Chen Bin thought victory was assured, an unexpected turn occurred at the board meeting. Contrary to the customary secret ballot, Xi Yanwei abruptly switched to a roll call vote. The directors unanimously agreed. Chen Bin glanced around the room, his heart racing as he cast his own vote. Xi Yanwei was re-elected as group chairman. Chen Bin was utterly dumbfounded. Fuming, he swept his gaze across the assembled directors. Yet, aside from Xi Yanwei, The other 5 deliberately avoided meeting his eyes. Chen Bin stormed out of the office. That evening, Boss Luan invited Chen Bin out. Smiling, he explained, "Didn't you say you had everyone covered? I figured losing my vote wouldn't matter. Who knew it would turn out like this?" Boss Luan spoke frankly, acknowledging Xin Wei's management skills were no less than Chen Bin's. "The court may have found you not guilty, but that doesn't mean you're innocent." 2 men past their prime came to blows in an exclusive club before security pulled them apart. Late that night, Chen Bin returned to the villa in a daze. Seeing her husband home, Xin Wei gently soothed his emotions. Chen Bin suddenly broke down, burying his face in Xin Wei's embrace and weeping bitterly. The next day, while Xin Wei was at the office, Chen Bin summoned Li Yi to their home. He told her he'd made up his mind it was time to act. Li Yi immediately sought out a media insider. The journalist was terrified the hard drive contained enough material for 50 trending headlines. At the law firm, Kong Hui led colleagues in celebrating Lin Can. Today was the ceremony for the Top 10 Outstanding Lawyers Award. But just as Lin Can finished applying lipstick and prepared to head to the backstage award area, her mentor suddenly entered with bad news. Moments earlier, the Bar Association had received a verified complaint alleging Lin Can had secured her position at Deshang Law Firm through backdoor connections. Since the accuser was the highly respected Mrs. Wu, the association revoked Lin Can's outstanding lawyer nomination without investigation. Had Professor Wu not been lying half-dead in the hospital, Mrs. Wu wouldn't have dared act so brazenly. Lin Can felt deeply distressed. At the ceremony, her parents waited in vain. The association announced her name for the award, but she never took the stage. Kong Hui, puzzled by her mentor's absence, called repeatedly with no answer. Colleagues who learned of the situation rallied to support Lin Can. Yet Lin Can, still despondent, went alone to the seaside, listening quietly to the waves crashing against the shore. Kong Hui, however, stormed into the hospital and burst into Professor Wu's ward. At the critical moment, he was pulled out by the senior partner. The senior partner brought Kong Hui back and handed him over to Lin Can. Lin Can asked him why he went to the hospital. "I need to confront him face to face. If he's a real man, he should step up and clear things up publicly. He can't just let his wife smear others with mud and still call himself a man." He felt for Lin Can, still carrying the stigma from back then, allowing those who envied and resented her to use that against her. Whispering behind her back, dismissing her daily hard work as mere favors from men, Zhao Sun planned to leave the city, seeking a place where no one knew her. Wu Yu intended to accompany her to another city. Before processing her resignation, the company demanded Zhao Sun return the luxury items gifted by the boss: clothes, bags, jewelry, and more. It took 5 men in black bustling about to help Zhao Sun finish the inventory. Seeing the dazzling array of luxury goods before him, Wu Yu wavered at that moment. Wu Yu remarked, "If you'd refused all this back then, that night never would have happened." Zhao Sun snapped back angrily, "You think I was assaulted because I didn't refuse outright?" The two parted on bad terms. That night, Zhao Sun called Lin Can to inform him of her resignation, and that she agreed to sign the non-disclosure agreement. Lin Can didn't tell Zhao Sun that Chen Bin had already rejected the NDA. She planned to help Zhao Sun persuade Chen Bin to sign. Zhao Sun's swift agreement might have stemmed from the day's events. Li Yi cornered her at the company entrance, deliberately humiliating her. Li Yi ordered the men in black to open the package, then deliberately dropped it, scattering its contents. The luxury items littering the floor drew whispers from surrounding employees. Zhao Sun instantly became the target of public scrutiny. Facing the stares of onlookers, Zhao Sun felt profoundly embarrassed. As the crowd grew larger, Zhao Sun turned to flee but was stopped again by HR. Li Yi then stepped forward as the Good Samaritan, inviting Zhao Sun to HR's office for a discussion. This entire scenario was orchestrated by Li Yi to lay the groundwork for future online mob attacks. Desperate to leave, Zhao Sun signed the termination agreement without hesitation, making no demands or requests for compensation. Late that night, she sat alone by the sea for hours. Kong Hui felt deeply for Lin Can. How could a decade-old stain erase years of honor? She couldn't understand what her boss was truly afraid of. Even Zhao Sun had found the courage to speak up for herself. Why couldn't he? When uncle and aunt appeared, Kong Hui stopped speaking. Back home, Lin Can's parents unexpectedly supported Kong Hui because she had done what they themselves wished to do. Meanwhile, Lin Can confessed her true feelings to her parents, admitting she wasn't perfect either. Though she'd refused Baoba's offer, She acknowledged entering Dajun law firm was indeed thanks to Professor Wu's influence. She had taken a shortcut but now realized shortcuts sometimes became detours. Like today's expulsion from the top 10 lawyers list, that was the price. All these years, Lin Kan had never been able to reconcile with herself. Hearing their daughter speak this way, her parents felt both heartbroken and guilty. They hadn't provided their daughter with a solid foundation. Lin Kan quickly pulled herself out of her despair. The next day, she went to talk to Chen Bin about the non-disclosure agreement. Chen Bin was clearly at home, yet he had his butler lie and say he was out. Yet Li Yi's car was parked right at the entrance. She knew Chen Bin was deliberately avoiding her. Li Yi edited the surveillance footage she held, removing key parts, and had a media insider leak it online. The scandal exploded rapidly, instantly topping multiple trending topics. Even the media company's servers reportedly crashed under the flood of traffic. Li Yi ordered the team to let the narrative run its course, no need to push it further. Her desired effect had been achieved. Meanwhile, Zhao Sun was still basking in the bliss of her newfound freedom after quitting her job. But just as she settled down, she stumbled upon the trending topics about herself. In the videos, she was seen holding a bottle in one hand and a glass in the other, drinking straight from the bottle. Zhao Sun cried, saying she couldn't remember anything. She claimed it was her first time seeing these videos too. Her mother unleashed a torrent of abuse at her. On Wu Yu's end, he was still struggling to explain things to his parents, but this time, even he had no idea how to justify it. Late at night, Wu Yu called Zhao Sun to ask if the videos were real. Upon hearing her affirmative answer, he hung up in fury. When Zhao Sun called back, Wu Yu's phone was already turned off. She rushed out of the house without a second thought. Learning that her uncle and aunt had also misunderstood her, she stormed to Wu Yu's home to explain, only to be coldly rebuffed by them. They warned her never to contact their son again. To everyone else, Zhao Sun was now the villain who had schemed against the boss. All sympathized with Chen Bin, believing he was wrongfully accused. Lin Kan sought out Mi Fei, offering to help her divorce and inquiring about Yin Bo's whereabouts. Mi Fei revealed Yin Bo had visited her just 3 days prior. Lin Kan had previously warned her never to accept any money from Yin Bo, or Bao Li would seize the opportunity to undermine her custody case. After hearing Mi Fei's account, both were deeply curious about where Yin Bo had obtained such a large sum. Even if he lived frugally, he couldn't have saved that much. They both suspected the money was connected to Chen Bin's case. Lin Kan asked Mi Fei to help arrange a meeting with Yin Bo. Later, Lin Kan introduced Mi Fei to Officer Zhu Lei from the city police and took her to the local women's federation. There, Mi Fei learned that over the years, Lin Kan had provided pro bono legal assistance to countless women in need. Late that night, on their way home, they saw the viral video of Zhao Sun trending online. Furious, Lin Kan confronted Chen Bin, demanding if he was behind the leak. Though pleased, Chen Bin denied responsibility. Not only that, he immediately proposed hiring Lin Kan to file a civil lawsuit against Zhao Sun. Stunned, Lin Kan said he needed time to consider and left. Learning everything, Xin Wei felt deeply disappointed in Chen Bin. Suing Zhao Sun meant thrusting himself and the group back into the public eye. The stock price, which had finally stabilized, was now shrouded in uncertainty. Yet Chen Bin cared little for this. His sole focus was shedding the image of an aggressor and reclaiming his position as chairman. But he had underestimated netizens. Within a single night of the video's release, netizens had already doxed all of Zhao Sun's personal information. Media personnel sought approval from Li Yi on whether to amplify the story. After all, they had previously taken pains to protect the female victim's identity. Li Yi immediately ordered his team to push the story using marketing accounts. Within a mere quarter hour, posts exposing Zhao Sun flooded major news trending lists. Spotting the posts, Zhao Sun bolted from her room, hastily closing all curtains and locking every door and window. She then secured the front door, unplugged the internet cable, and ordered her parents to turn off their phones and avoid looking. Later, she cautiously peered through a crack to find the area swarming with self-media reporters. Xin Wei believed the doxing post was also orchestrated by Chen Bin and berated him, calling him a despicable person. Chen Bin admitted he posted the video but claimed the doxing had nothing to do with him. To achieve his goals, Chen Bin had pushed Zhao Sun through the darkest period of her life these past 2 days. Netizens began sympathizing with Chen Bin, believing he was the real victim. Yan Li, seeing the trending topic, sought out Lin Kan. Abandoning her usual arrogance, she humbly pleaded for Lin Kan's help to save Zhao Sun. She believed Chen Bin was orchestrating everything behind the scenes. Having already won legally, he still wouldn't let Zhao Sun go. Now he was manipulating online sentiment, launching a slut-shaming campaign to destroy Zhao Sun with public opinion. She begged her senior to stop Chen Bin, warning that Zhao Sun would surely take her own life otherwise. Lin Kan ignored her. Li Yi revealed to Chen Bin that she was the one behind those posts. Zhao Sun made you suffer terribly in prison, she said. She told Chen Bin that in the public eye, everything was black and white. From this moment on, he couldn't show any mercy toward Zhao Sun. Now that they'd reached this point, it was either her social death or his. Li Yi urged Chen Bin to ponder why Yin Bo, despite knowing something, refused to provide evidence favorable to Zhao Sun to the police. It turned out she had found Yin Bo and paid him 500,000 yuan to keep him silent. Chen Bin sighed and walked out of the villa. Though Lin Kan hadn't verbally agreed to Yan Li's request, she softened and came to see Zhao Sun. Upon seeing the media swarming the neighborhood, she turned and left to find Chen Bin. She confronted him directly. Was his next move to post the video of Zhao Sun kissing him online to deny the assault? Only then did Chen Bin realize that while he was legally exonerated, in everyone's eyes, he remained a disgraced criminal. He resolved to sue Zhao Sun without fail. Lin Kan also prepared to terminate her contract at any moment. Later, Lin Kan and Yan Li visited Zhao Sun. Zhao Sun, believing Lin Kan was in cahoots with Chen Bin to deceive her again, hurled insults and kicked him out. Only then did Yan Li realize Lin Kan's earlier suggestion for Zhao Sun to sign the non-disclosure agreement was precisely to prevent this situation. Back in the car, she thanked Lin Kan on Zhao Sun's behalf. Lin Kan shrugged it off with a smile, saying he understood. Late at night, Zhao Sun's father secretly hid in the bathroom scrolling through his phone, reading the online vitriol targeting his daughter. He broke down in tears. The next day, Lin Kan arrived at the firm only to find Li Yi discussing matters in the senior partner's office. After Li Yi left, the senior partner approached Lin Kan, insisting that criminal and civil cases were trivial compared to the major investments and mergers at stake. He urged Lin Kan to prioritize the bigger picture and not sacrifice the essential for the minor. But Lin Kan remained steadfast in his refusal to defend Chen Bin. The senior lawyer, exasperated, resolved to personally step in and defend Chen Bin. Later, Li Yi approached Chen Bin, explaining she'd taken the initiative to handle follow-up matters. Regarding the final crucial video, she asked Chen Bin if he wanted it released. Chen Bin remained silent. Just as Li Yi turned to leave, Chen Bin abruptly pulled her back. He embraced her tightly, their bodies pressed together. After leaving the villa, Li Yi immediately called the media. Chen Bin had finally pushed things too far. Zhao Sun's father prepared a feast of his daughter's favorite dishes. Just as the family sat down to eat, an unexpected incident occurred. Neighbors accused them of disrupting the community's normal life. Hearing the neighbors' insults, Zhao Sun's father angrily threw a brick back at them. Yet the next moment, another brick flew through Zhao Sun's window. Hurting himself was one thing, but harming his daughter was another. Enraged, Zhao Sun's father charged out, snatching a piece of wood to strike at the crowd. In an instant, he was subdued and pinned to the ground by the mob. Neighbors shouted to call the police. Zhao Sun's mother rushed downstairs, pleading with them not to report it. Zhao Sun sat helplessly on the ground, clutching a shard of glass, heartbroken and blaming herself. Back upstairs, Zhao Sun's father still couldn't swallow his anger. Zhao Sun slowly stood up, smashed the glass on the floor, and stormed out in fury. Zhao Sun's father also realized he'd spoken rashly in anger. The moment Zhao Sun stepped outside, she was swarmed by a group of reporters. She jumped on her bike and sped out of the residential compound. After shaking them off at the intersection, Zhao Sun finally felt a brief sense of release. She had been hiding at home for far too long these past days. Soon after, Lin Kan received a call from Zhao Sun. They met by the seaside. Zhao Sun asked Lin Kan for help finding a place to stay where she wouldn't be disturbed. Kind-hearted Lin Kan asked Kong Wei, the wealthy second-generation heir, for the keys to his suburban villa. Worried Zhao Sun would be afraid staying alone in the villa, Lin Kan planned to move in with her. While packing to leave, he encountered Chen Bin. Not wanting to lose Lin Kan as a friend, he sought understanding. Chen Bin felt deeply wronged. He admitted liking Zhao Sun, but insisted he'd never used his power to force her. If Zhao Sun wasn't willing, he'd never push. Yet Zhao Sun never uttered a single word of refusal. Therefore, he must sue Zhao Sun to reclaim his lost dignity. After bringing Zhao Sun to the villa, the two girls decorated the rooms together, enjoying a relaxed and pleasant time. Their relationship seemed to grow closer. Late at night, she asked Lin Kan why he helped her. Lin Kan said he appeared somewhat smarter. It protected himself without severing ties. But this was compromise. not resistance. Zhao Sun admitted she regretted calling the police more accurately. She regretted not being a perfect victim. She was both cowardly and greedy before reporting it. She hadn't realized how many vulnerabilities she possessed. She should have hated Lin Kan, yet she couldn't bring herself to do so, because it wasn't Lin Kan who made her lose, it was her own flawed self. The next morning, Zhao Sun happily prepared breakfast for Lin Kan, but she accidentally saw Lin Kan's WeChat message stating they planned to sue her. Zhao Sun felt betrayed all over again. Lin Kan hurried off to work because he had a meeting. What Zhao Sun didn't know was that the entire WeChat message Conway sent wasn't what she thought it was. Reading only half of it made her mistakenly believe Lin Kan's kindness this time was still a ploy to harm her. Zhao Sun slipped into a white gown and walked smiling toward the seaside cliff. She made one final call to Wu Yu, urging him to forget her and start anew. When Wu Yu called back, her phone was already turned off. Unable to reach Zhao Sun, Lin Kan grew frantic, fearing she might have done something drastic. He raced to the villa. Upon arriving, Lin Kan found a suicide note on Zhao Sun's laptop. Yanli urgently called the team to track Zhao Sun's phone. Following the signal, the three retraced Zhao Sun's path. From the day Zhao Sun mustered the courage to speak out about her ordeal, every moment became a moral trial. Each hesitation, each struggle, each moment of weakness became evidence for moral condemnation. The fact of her assault, overshadowed by moral judgment, could not secure legal protection. Public sympathy might even be misconstrued as complicity in Chen Bin's crimes. One a criminal suspect, the other a civil defendant. Who truly was the victim between Chen Bin and Zhao Sun? Zhao Sun stated her suicide note wasn't meant to absolve herself, but to confront her own shattered self. She had never been the perfect victim. At the cliff's edge, Lin Kan felt as though he saw Zhao Sun again. Afterward, rescue personnel and Zhao Sun's parents rushed to the scene. Yanli rappelled down the cliff and finally discovered Zhao Sun, her body fractured but still showing vital signs. The operating room lights remained on as the reduction surgery stretched into its third hour. Even if her legs were repaired, she would be left with one leg shorter than the other, a lifelong disability. At this moment, Chen Bin called Lin Kan to inquire about the situation, and voluntarily offered to cover all treatment and rehabilitation costs, demanding the best conditions and the finest medications. Lin Kan and Yanli waited outside the operating room until late into the night. Yanli urged her senior classmate to go home and rest. Lin Kan, however, was consumed by guilt, convinced that it was that morning's WeChat message that had doomed Zhao Sun, by making her mistakenly believe Lin Kan and Chen Bin were conspiring to sue her. Even if Zhao Sun hadn't seen that message, she would still receive the court summons and subpoena afterward. Each court appearance would be a trial by fire, potentially facing even fiercer public condemnation than now. Zhao Sun couldn't endure much longer. On one hand, she had to defend her client, while on the other, she had to protect Zhao Sun. Lin Kan was truly struggling. She confided her inner turmoil to Yanli. Lin Kan said she couldn't accept the outcome. Professor Wu, oblivious, called his disciple. Lin Kan would rather abandon her PhD to escape Professor Wu, yet she couldn't abandon the path already paved for her at Dajun University. Given her resume at the time, she held no competitive edge against those returning from prestigious foreign universities with master's or doctoral degrees. Yanli also recalled her early days in the police force. Back then, as a rookie facing a rape case similar to Zhao Sun's, the girl ultimately died. The girl's death had left an indelible mark on her soul. Both women saw echoes of their past selves in Zhao Sun's case. Chen Bin informed his wife he no longer intended to press charges. After a night of deliberation, he called Lin Kan and asked her to come over. He wanted to tell her of his decision to drop the case against Zhao Sun, but just then, his son initiated a video call. "What did you do to that sister? Why did she kill herself?" His worst fear had materialized. He couldn't let his son's image of him as a superhero father crumble. So when Lin Kan arrived at the villa, he changed his mind at the last moment. Before, suing Zhao Sun was to clear his own name. Now, suing was to give his son a father with a clean conscience. Chen Bin said Zhao Sun was lying in the ICU and couldn't receive the summons, so he had Zhao Sun's parents accept it on her behalf. When court convened, she couldn't stand at the defendant's dock, so she found someone to stand in for her. Seeing Chen Bin's unwavering stance, Lin Kan made her own decision. Lin Kan resolved then and there to defend Zhao Sun, no matter the cost. She would not change her mind. Yet Chen Bin had already made thorough preparations long before Lin Kan came to her. He had commissioned Lin Kan's mentor to represent him. Chen Bin assumed Lin Kan would back down. Yet after careful consideration, she remained resolute in her decision to defend Zhao Sun. Xin Wei couldn't comprehend why her husband had changed his stance. Faced with Chen Bin's stubborn obstinacy, she could only offer two words: people must ultimately take responsibility for their actions. With that, she walked away with authority. Back at the firm, Lin Ken was summoned to her mentor's office. Ren Gang, having received advance notice, was certain Lin Can's decision was irrational. He couldn't believe Lin Can would abandon a decade of career building for a stranger. Moreover, this decision would inflict significant financial losses on the firm. Ren Gang explicitly told Lin Can he wouldn't persuade all partners to sign her withdrawal agreement, nor would he approve departmental cooperation in settling her debts. Despite this, Lin Can acted on impulse. Kang Hui understood her boss's decision but still felt resentful. She threw a minor tantrum and avoided Lin Can. Lin Can's parents were even more adorable. To prevent their daughter from abandoning her legal career for Zhao Sun, her mother secretly took Lin Can's lawyer's license under cover of night and fled. The next day, Lin Can suddenly received a call from a hospital nurse. Im Bo had come to the hospital inquiring about Zhao Sun's condition. Upon hearing the news, Lin Can rushed to the hospital immediately and intercepted Im Bo at the entrance. Im Bo was deeply moved to learn that a prominent lawyer like Lin Can was representing his ex-girlfriend Mi Fei pro bono in her divorce case. However, this didn't mean Lin Can could use it as leverage to force Im Bo into testifying for Zhao Sun. Lin Can had already read Im Bo's mind thoroughly. She questioned Im Bo about the origin of the 600,000 yuan in his possession. Im Bo nervously claimed it was his own earnings. Lin Can hoped Im Bo would step forward to testify for Zhao Sun, proving that Zhao Sun had indeed suffered workplace sexual harassment from Chen Bin. What he witnessed might not carry weight for criminal conviction, but it was crucial for Zhao Sun's exoneration. Learning that Chen Bin planned to file a civil lawsuit against Zhao Sun after winning the criminal case left Im Bo stunned. Unwittingly, he had become Zhao Sun's sole hope. As Lin Can pressed him further, Im Bo glanced nervously at his phone, claiming urgent business and excusing himself. Later, Lin Can sought out a major client he'd previously worked with, hoping they would continue collaborating with Dazheng law firm after his departure. After Zhao Sun survived, she didn't know whether to feel grateful or wronged. She asked Yen Li to tell Lin Can not to visit her in the hospital anymore. Upon learning this, Lin Can had just stepped out of the hospital when he received a tearful call from Mi Fei. Lin Can's heart sank upon hearing the news. Bao Li had discovered Mi Fei had sought help from the Women's Federation. Enraged, he returned home, grabbed Mi Fei by the hair, and beat her mercilessly. When Mi Fei clutched the leg of a cabinet, Bao Li kicked her viciously and stomped on her. Terrified, Mi Fei wasn't even sure if Bao Li was truly dead. Lin Can urged Mi Fei to calm down and listen carefully to his plan. Since Mi Fei was the victim of domestic violence, the law would recognize her as the victim. As long as evidence proved it was self-defense, Mi Fei would not face criminal charges. Lin Can instructed her to find a safe place to hide. Remember, it must be a voluntary surrender. This was crucial for securing a lenient sentence for Mi Fei. After comforting Mi Fei, Lin Can called Officer Zhu. He outlined the incident and emphasized the necessity of ensuring the evidence of domestic violence stored on Mi Fei's phone was handed over intact to the Municipal Bureau. After sending her location to Officer Zhu, Lin Can set off for Wanghai County. Officer Zhu searched the dilapidated pier for a long time. When he saw Mi Fei, covered in injuries, he froze for a moment. He couldn't bear to imagine what this girl endured day after day. On the way to Wanghai County, Lin Can received a call from an unknown number. Professor Wu's familiar voice, though faint, left Lin Can momentarily breathless. After hanging up, she couldn't calm her nerves for a long time. Upon arriving at the Municipal Bureau, Officer Zhu informed Mi Fei that Bo Li's family had also filed a report at the County Bureau. Fortunately, after Mi Fei turned herself in, Officer Zhu praised Lin Can profusely for her impeccable timing and approach in handling the surrender. Meeting with the leadership of the Municipal Bureau's Criminal Investigation Division, Lin Can detailed Mi Fei's domestic abuse situation. She stated that Bo Li's guesthouse likely contained over 25 surveillance cameras, which should have recorded the abuse. Concerned that evidence unfavorable to Bao Li might be tampered with by his family, she urged the police to secure and preserve the footage immediately. As for why she bypassed local authorities, it was because Bao Li had extensive connections within the local police force. After recounting her previous experience of being knocked unconscious and waking up to find evidence missing, the captain understood Lin Can's reasoning. Early the next morning, Lincoln received news that Baoli had survived and was being treated. She then visited Mi-Fei at the detention center. Mi-Fei recounted the day's events in meticulous detail to Zhao Sun. After hearing the account again, Lincoln concluded Mi-Fei had acted with some degree of intent. However, self-defense also has its limits. She pledged to fight for Mi-Fei's counterattack to be classified as legitimate self-defense. Lincoln then traveled to the county seat. Since Baoli had funded road construction and village development, the village chief led the charge in speaking on Baoli's behalf. Villagers believed Mi-Fei had come from a poor mountain village and used her looks to marry into their wealthy community. She spent her days at home eating well, drinking well, and doing nothing. Just then, Baoli's mother arrived with people to cause trouble. Lincoln had no choice but to leave the village. A woman then found Lincoln, saying she had experienced the same thing as Mi-Fei. She wanted to testify for Mi-Fei in court but was afraid to. If her village or family found out, she'd surely be beaten again. After gathering the facts, Lincoln returned to her hotel late at night, but she felt someone was following her. She quickened her pace, rushed back to her room, and cautiously peered out the door. Bo had followed Lincoln to the hotel and anxiously inquired about Mi-Fei's situation. Ultimately, Mi-Fei's case was transferred from the Municipal Bureau to the Wanghai County Public Security Bureau. The Municipal Bureau believed existing evidence wouldn't warrant a severe sentence for Mi-Fei, but downgrading the case to county level meant Baoli's protection network remained intact, exactly what Lincoln feared. Yet Zhu Lei brought her good news. Baoli's protector had been suspended by higher authorities for suspected serious disciplinary violations. Relieved, Lincoln rushed back to the law firm the next day only to learn Professor Wu was near death. All his students rushed to the hospital, desperate to see their teacher one last time. Lincoln felt torn and conflicted. After much internal struggle, she still drove toward the hospital. Yet, upon arriving at the hospital entrance, she saw her senior classmate arriving with his parents. Seeing this, Lincoln turned back to her car. Her mother rushed into the ward and told her old classmate that the most regrettable thing she had done in her life was. Lincoln saw her parents leaving the hospital and walked over with an umbrella to escort them. The family walked together, hand in hand. Lincoln never went up to see Professor Wu one last time. Late at night, she packed her things in the office, preparing to resign. All that remained was her mentor's signature on the resignation letter. Everyone was intelligent. After witnessing Lincoln's parents' conversation at the hospital that day, Ren Gang had already pieced together the truth behind the industry rumors from years ago. When Lincoln first joined the firm, he had believed those rumors, so he deliberately assigned her the most challenging cases. To his surprise, Lincoln not only won them but made a stunning breakthrough. She completed the 6-level promotion in 4 years. By the 5th year, she was promoted to salaried partner. By the 7th year, she became an equity partner. Only then did Ren Gang realize he had found a gem. As she spoke, Lincoln began to cry. She didn't know why she had gone to the hospital that day. Professor Wu was already on his deathbed. Why couldn't she forgive him? Ren Gang didn't know how to comfort his protege, ultimately just silently signing the resignation letter. The next day, Lincoln met Kong Hui in the empty office. Kong Hui was deeply reluctant to see the boss leave and immediately pulled out his own lawyer's license. Lincoln told him not to be so impulsive and tactfully explained she was used to working alone. Rejected, Kong Hui looked like a hurt puppy, unwilling to let go as he embraced Lincoln one last time. Watching his boss's retreating figure, he wept. Later, Lincoln visited Zhao Sun in the hospital and informed her he'd quit being a lawyer to represent her in the lawsuit. "I'm not just doing this for you, I'm doing it for myself too. We're the same. We're both the same." A month later, Zhao Sun formally received the lawsuit filed by Chen Bin, accusing her of defamation. Zhao Sun accepted pretrial mediation. Lin Can, as Zhao Sun's representative, met Chen Bin's attorney in court. After hearing Ren Gang's settlement proposal, Lin Can decisively rejected it. Both were renowned senior attorneys in the field. The mediator also informed them that regardless of who ultimately won or lost this case, the victor would only achieve a Pyrrhic victory, gaining no dignity whatsoever. With mediation failing, the court formally accepted the case. Meanwhile, Lincoln was also preparing litigation for Mi-Fei's case. While organizing both parties' testimonies, she discovered a crucial factor. Mi-Fei had privately concealed a fruit knife. Lincoln informed her that the prosecution would use this to establish intent to harm the victim, and prove Mi-Fei's defense clearly exceeded necessary limits. Sure enough, in court, Baoli's lawyer argued that Mi-Fei's first stab constituted self-defense, but subsequent stabs constituted intentional assault. Lincoln then submitted surveillance footage showing Mi Fei being abused while stabbing Bao Li that day. She was dragged by her hair across the floor, subjected to continuous stomping and kicking for 2 full minutes. Lincoln explicitly stated that when Mi Fei was dragged near the weapon, her hands remained firmly gripping the cabinet leg. There was no motion to reach into the storage cabinet for the knife. Only when Bao Li mounted Mi Fei, clutching her throat with both hands, causing her to suffocate and nearly lose consciousness, Mi Fei finally drew the dagger to fight back. Yet despite Lin Can's compelling testimony in court articulating everything Mi Fei felt but couldn't express, the court still issued a lenient sentence based on existing evidence days later. The defendant, Mi Fei, was convicted of intentional injury and sentenced to 2 years and 6 months in prison. Mi Fei wept, overcome by despair. After one last glance at Yin Bo, she was led away. Later, Lincoln visited the detention center again, asking Mi Fei if she wanted to appeal. Mi Fei had resolved to give up everything, even the child. But seeing the steadfastness in Lin Can's eyes, what reason did she have left to abandon herself? She agreed to appeal. Zhao Sun was discharged from the hospital without incident. Lin Can handed her the court summons and conveyed Chen Bin's request for her to appear in court. Zhao Sun's parents firmly refused, arguing her recently recovered health couldn't endure prolonged sitting. Moreover, appearing in court would only invite more gossip and finger-pointing behind her back. Lin Can suggested the three would apply for a trial postponement themselves. At this point, no one knew Lin Can was already plotting a grand strategy. Even Chen Bin couldn't help but marvel. She's a real force to be reckoned with. On the day of Mi Fei's appeal hearing, Lin Can fully leveraged newly enacted legal grounds, specifically the self-defense provisions activated in August 2020. After the appellate review, the presiding judge ultimately overturned Mi Fei's original criminal conviction. On the way back, Mi Fei stared at Lin Can for a long time. Their eyes met, and they shared a knowing smile. Meanwhile, Yin Bo, seated in the back seat, kept his eyes fixed solely on Mi Fei. Two souls adrift in confusion had finally found each other again. After concluding Mi Fei's case, Lin Can voluntarily surrendered her lawyer's license. She took on Zhao Sun's case as a private citizen. Yin Bo also tracked down Li Yi to return the 500,000 yuan meant to silence him. He then went to Lin Can's residence and told her he was willing to testify in court for Zhao Sun. Li Yi believed Lin Can had spared no effort to win. She asked Chen Bin if he should consider withdrawing the lawsuit. Chen Bin retorted, "Why should I withdraw? Besides, what proof could Yin Bo possibly offer?" Zhao Sun continued her rehabilitation training diligently to be able to attend the court hearing. Lin Can shared Yin Bo's offer to testify with her, and urged Zhao Sun to request another postponement so she could appeal for sexual harassment against Chen Bin. Ren Gang saw Lin Can had applied for another extension. Racking his brain, he still couldn't figure out Lin Can's strategy. He had no idea what his former apprentice would do next. Kang Hui had already guessed Lin Can's next move, but he refused to tell Ren Gang. Chen Bin immediately dispatched Ren Gang to negotiate with Lin Can. Ren Gang conveyed Chen Bin's willingness to offer financial compensation and cover all of Zhao Sun's medical and rehabilitation expenses. The condition was mutual withdrawal of the lawsuits, but the initiative was no longer in their hands. Lin Can also informed her mentor that she would consult Zhao Sun. The next day, she accompanied Zhao Sun on a walk and shared Chen Bin's settlement proposal. Withdrawing the lawsuits would return everything to square one, yet Zhao Sun's life could never return to its former state. This time, she resolved to stand up courageously and make her voice heard by all. On the day of the hearing, Yin Bo appeared as agreed to testify. He stated that Zhao Sun had resisted every interaction with Chen Bin. To protect her, he had deliberately disrupted their private meetings on multiple occasions. Chen Bin, consumed by resentment, fired Yin Bo. That very night, Chen Bin succeeded in his intentions. Yin Bo truthfully recounted everything he knew to the judge. Months passed as Ren Gang and Lin Can remained locked in confrontation. Ren Gang argued that Zhao Sun had previously provided false testimony. Her series of baffling actions, shifting positions and contradicting herself, leading to the dismissal of the criminal charges due to insufficient evidence. Lin Can added that Zhao Sun was not a perfect victim, her moral conduct not entirely beyond reproach, which caused her hesitation in pressing rape charges. Yet this did not contradict the case. Does a victim's moral flaws automatically justify her victimization? Conversely, does the absence of such flaws grant immunity from assault? The scrutiny and condemnation should fall upon the perpetrator, not the victim. Ren Gang countered by asking Zhao Sun why she didn't refuse during the assault. Lin Kan responded, "We fear those who harm us will abuse their power. We fear that refusal might cost us opportunities and benefits we could gain. We feared even more that refusal would invite malicious retaliation and greater harm. How deeply ingrained is the worship of power within our consciousness? Thus, when those in authority brutally violate a victim's will, Zhao Sun's vulnerabilities become understandable, for in real life, there are far too many Zhao Suns. Their struggle is not against brute force, but against the cowardice within their own hearts." Later, Zhao Sun sued the defendant for 1 yuan in symbolic damages. She also wanted to tell the defendant, "I refuse." That night, Chen Bin shared with Xin Wei his desire to accompany his son to study in England. From now on, Chen Bin wanted to reclaim everything he had lost. The next day, he confronted Li Yi, demanding why she resigned. Facing Chen Bin's questioning, Li Yi slapped him hard across the face. "The person who loved you most throughout the entire play was Li Yi. How could you say such hurtful words?" Li Yi left Chen Bin, recalling the dances they'd shared. Unconsciously, tears of sorrow streamed down her face. Later, Chen Bin met with Zhao Sun again. Seeing her limp, he felt profound remorse and sincerely apologized. He offered to pay more, but Zhao Sun insisted on only 1 yuan. The court ultimately ruled that Chen Bin must personally apologize to Zhao Sun within 15 days, either verbally or in writing, and pay 1 yuan in compensation for emotional distress. Since both parties were top-tier lawyers, the case became known as the most expensive lawyer. Zhao Sun won and excitedly embraced Lin Kan. Though her mentor lost, he still held his apprentice in high regard. Meanwhile, Chen Bin had moved to England and become a homemaker. One day, Zhao Sun returned to the workforce for a job interview. After the interview, HR stated her resume didn't meet the company's requirements. Zhao Sun confronted him, "If you knew it didn't meet the requirements just by looking at the resume, why did you even call me in for an interview?" He jokingly replied, "I just wanted to see." Lin Kan then asked Zhao Sun if she'd be willing to be his assistant, a legal professional currently on leave. Zhao Sun happily agreed. And so, the two women went on to live a carefree and happy life together.